I suspect we're going to wander around a little bit today because everyone here is a little bit hungover. Billy from a petting zoo. But we didn't get to the petting zoo commercial that Stugotz did, and it was a great joke. And I blew the joke because I laughed. Otherwise, he would have kept reading till the end of time because Stugotz, when he reads, does not retain. And he is very much Ron Burgundy and Anchorman. So we put a fake ad in front of him, and this is what ended up happening.
Follow the herd, nearly 300 head of cattle into the heart of Miami. Admission's free. Don't miss the horse shows, arts and crafts, all the plants and flowers you can buy, a farmer's market, dog skill show, live bands, great food, and more. Like their cowboy hat made of bacon, kids will love petting the cows, cougars, donkeys, mules, ducks, birds, rattlesnakes, and everyone's favorite, alligator wrestling for the kids. And the huge fun zone.
And unfortunately, I laughed there. Or there was much more material there, and
I would have gone on forever.
He would still be reading it if we asked him to. He would still go cuddle the polar bears, tickle the lions.
I would have, yeah. Thank you.
Petting a rattlesnake is the best part of that for me.
Yeah.
But Billy, I don't understand why it is
That's
that you
not why I noticed.
You are a very careful person. You love you are a family man. You are a dad. You spent Sunday, a big Miami sports week. You went and did Mother's Day, dad style, to be a loving dad.
It's
and
Mother's Day, you know.
And then you almost feed your child to an alligator.
That's not what happened. No, that's not. You're gonna have like Child Protective Services take my child away from me. That's not what happened. We went to a farm, whose name I'm not going to say, but, if you look, I tagged it in, it's like Tina's Farms or something like that. So we went to the farm and we were walking around and, we were taking it all in, taking pictures, doing all these things, right? And then there was like a show where they showed the animals and they walked around and you could pet lemurs and all kinds of things, right? And we thought, well, let's have our daughter see that she shouldn't be afraid of these things, because if not, she'll be afraid of like spiders or something the rest of her life, or frogs or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, Stugotz, imagine if as a child you had pet a giant bullfrog or something.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't be scared of frogs now.
It's a great point. You're right. That would conquer my fear of frogs.
But sometimes fear is good as information, because that way you don't get eaten by an alligator at 7 years old.
I mean, Dan, come on. What are we doing?
We live in the swamp, as I'm saying. Just saying, the alligators clearly want their land back. We took a lot of it from them. They want it back. And one day, an alligator is going to have taught from a young age, when we can't find the place to feed it anymore, that babies are okay to eat.
You know who wants their land back? Miami Gardens. They want their land back. Those poor people on Mother's Day had to deal with that and all that traffic. Enough.
Oh, gosh.
It was bad. Ooh, it was bad traffic.
Yep.
There was also some houses nearby that were charging $200 for parking. So
that's a heady play.
At the very least, they got some of their money's worth.
To their family members for Mother's Day?
Well, maybe there's like kind of a residual effect, a knock-on effect. $200 for the parking, maybe a little bit goes to mom.
I wanted to ask you guys, because this is a Miami show, and somebody has written in here, damn, a semi-concussed Joel Embiid and all that culture goes right out the damn window. I was curious in all the analysis we do of sports, hyper-analyzing just everything. When I tell you that in a salary cap sport, there's some winning in the margins, and we celebrate the stars in that sport, but that it's a mathematical, empirical fact that if the Heat go on the road, their role guys are less likely to be good. And next thing you know, they're 14 of 65 from three in 2 games. 14 of 65 from three, the best three-point shooting team in the league. When I tell you that that's not going to travel, that Danny Green might be 1 for 9 here, or that George Niang is going to miss 10 straight threes, when you're playing this game that is about taking 40 threes a game, and I'm telling you that there is a mathematical probability that in the next game that you're watching, all of the role players will descend into a pit, because only the stars actually travel consistently. Giannis is going to get his wherever it is that he's playing. It's not going to stop him. Even if Tatum is stopped down 0 for 10 against Wesley Matthews, even if that is a thing that happens and can be traveled, Tatum will not be stopped for the entirety of a series. It's not possible to stop him. But if it's an empirical thing that's so, why don't we talk more about it? Because we can talk about Luka and Devin Booker and Chris Paul and everything else in that Dallas-Phoenix series, but what's happened in these 2 series is just team goes up 2-0 easily at home because their stars are stars, and then the role players play well, and then you go on the road and the it happens again and again. Why don't we make more of that if it's such an if it's just happens every damn year and it's mathematically so? Why do we spend all the time talking so much in the fringes about what decides these games?
Well, it seems like you and I have talked about this plenty over the years, that the role players play better when they're at home. They're more familiar with the arena, the sight lines, the shooting lines.
It's not as interesting, though, is it, as saying that Chris Paul's a choker?
No. It's not at all.
But I'm saying, isn't that why it's not more a part of the analysis when it's going to become about, oh, Joel Embiid is back, and of course, yes, of course. And Joel Embiid opens it up. James Harden gets to be a totally different player when Joel Embiid is back. But also, oh, shit, Danny Green is 1,000,000 years old and still doing that thing that he's been doing for 1,000,000 years, that it doesn't travel so well anymore. And in the first 2 games of this series, when it was only Harden out there, he got nothing.
Right.
There was nothing to be had.
But I think most fans expect Niang to be better at home than they do at the on the road. And with Chris Paul, a star like Chris Paul, you expect him. It's okay to have an off night, but to have back-to-back off nights, not good. You expect him and those kind of guys to be great at least in one of those 2 road games. You do.
Well, you wanted to come in here after Chris Paul. You were eager to get in here. Yeah. You were eager to get in here. And so Chris Paul is in the middle of it today.
He is.
Because he went after a 14-year-old kid, and now he's saying on social media, hey, it's not fair that fans get to think that they can put their hands on me or my family, and then me or my family can't do anything back, and then we have to eat that one. And that's the controversy after he's had a truly dreadful game in which he is fouled out. I did not know this before the weekend, Stugotz, that Chris Paul is the #1 pick-and-roll efficiency player in the entire NBA in pick-and-roll efficiencies that include passes. So he is empirically and arguably great at basketball, but he's 37 years old. And I've always maintained that the aging process in sports is simply not that you can't do it anymore, but that you cannot do it as consistently. You simply cannot. You can still be the player that we recognize every once in a while, but it's not something that is as likely to be produced every single time out the way the youth and prime of Giannis can produce it.
Well, I mean, that's convenient for Chris Paul because when he's having the great games, we're praising him, saying we've never seen Chris Paul play better than he's playing right now. And then he goes on the road against a Dallas team that, let's be honest, is not very good. At least not in my opinion.
No, Stugotz, come on.
You're the Suns. You've been the best team in the NBA the entire year. You want to be a top 5 point guard. No. Play a good game on the road.
I'm not arguing that Phoenix wasn't better all year. I'm simply telling you that Dallas, the last half of the season, was exceptionally well as Luka rounded into shape. As a one-man team with a lot of fringe guys, Dallas was excellent and a formidable 4 seed. As dangerous as a 4 seed as Philadelphia is going to be in the middle of a conference.
This is why we don't discuss what you just asked, why we don't discuss. Because the Dallas role players were better in Dallas than they were in Phoenix. All of them. Every single one of them played better except for Luka, but he's not a role player. He's a star. He's supposed to be great every night. Chris Paul is a star, supposed to be great every single night. And to give you 17 points in 2 games, and yesterday, foul out, have more fouls than you did points, that's an embarrassment. It's why I will never say Chris Paul is a top 10 point guard, because he's not. Because the top 10, listen, Isaiah Thomas might give you a bad game on the road.
Okay,
he's not giving you back-to-back bad games like that.
I prefer you. I prefer you not
doing it.
Okay, but I prefer you not get to be right today because it happened on Sunday, and we ignored Chris Paul's 14 for 14 because it happened on a Friday, and you had a weekend to not eat shit on Chris Paul going 14 for 14 and having the best playoff performance we've ever had. You can always be there to
it happened Friday and Sunday in this case.
You can be there to criticize Chris Paul at every turn. At 37 years old, he's about 2 years past where I thought he was going to be able to do any of this. I wouldn't have wanted him in Miami 2 years ago with that contract. He's been great. You can keep arguing that he's not great. This is how aging can work for superstars. And he will probably not win at the end because holy shit, Golden State. And you will get to be victorious again. You will get to be victorious again because it's hard to be Chris Paul at 37 and fighting what the Warriors have now in Draymond Green, who says he's tired of the way you cover this stuff. And he has declared himself the new media.
Okay, great.
He's like, Draymond Green says, yours truly, I'm the new media. You guys with your gas bag opinions, no more. I get the microphone. I get to compete in this space too.
I mean, he does, but he's presenting his point of view that is probably going to be friendly to him. We are meant to be the neutral arbiters, and while very few of us are, we do our best, and there's a reason why, like there's the brain surgeons and there's people who have brains analogy. But
I think people care less. I think fans care less and less about that, and I would say today's
but
fan
they're like
as well.
participating more in the conversation, right? The conversation happens every day on social media. It's the members of the media who are in that conversation more than active athletes. But I just want to talk about Stugotz's Chris Paul point. He's in his 17th season in the NBA. Most people from his draft class are gone. Most people that age are gone. It's insane how much his career has surged from when you think about when he got traded from Houston to OKC as a contract dump for Russell Westbrook, thought of as the worst contract in the league, and he led that team to 66 wins.
Well, Devin Booker did.
Okay. Chris Paul did too. He had a massive role to play. It's the two of them. Generally, 2 stars get it done in that league. But I will say, in these playoffs, he's had a couple of these where it's like not just that he's been bad.
Super stinkers.
He kind of loses the plot a little bit. Like taking 6 fouls, like Jose Alvarado got in his head. Like it's kind of weird how Phoenix, who were this incredibly dominant team in the regular season, have not been as dominant. And yeah, you can say that role players are better at home, but when you're getting beat by Dorian Finney-Smith going 8 of 12, it's like this wasn't supposed to happen to this team. Like Phoenix were meant to be the dominant team out west. And now, like you said, you probably made Golden State favorites.
Did I read this wrong? Was it a fake prop bet on Finney-Smith that I saw over 1 points, rebounds, and assists?
That can't be
Had
real.
to be fake.
And-
I mean, come on.
Maybe over on threes, maybe?
There's no way. I mean,
earlier in the series, I felt like it's possibly not possible, but when I read it, I'm like, they really do think that it's just Luka and nobody else.
he did have a game where he had 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, but he crushed it at home, to your point. They just play better at home. The role players do. He had 24 points yesterday.
It isn't as interesting, though. It's more interesting. It's not as interesting to talk about Wesley Matthews. Did he play great defense on Jason Tatum? Jason Tatum's 0 for 10, as it is to wonder what the hell happened to Jason Tatum.
Yep.
And then yell about the foul call at the end or the non-foul call at the end. And then one of the rare close games in these playoffs, as all the math has been changed, and there are a lot of blowouts and a lot of games where not very interesting.
No.
Just not. There are nights not only when basketball is off, but there are 2 uninteresting games that night that never get close.
I think game 1, Celtics-Nets, was the most interesting game of the NBA playoffs thus far. Probably, right?
It is not like the NFL. They're moving in the other direction. Every game decided by a field goal in the NFL. When you make it all about the threes and you make some of these teams be able to shoot that much better at home, when their role players shoot better at home, and you make it 40 and 50 threes a game. Like the Miami Heat were the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league. They looked like they did not know how to shoot for 2 games. Like that's the best team in the league shooting threes by percentage and missing 40 of 60 threes. And we're talking about Embiid. And Embiid's returned, and isn't that amazing? And look at this. James Harden looks different, and he's making his threes from out there. But I don't think that's what's happening. Like, I think I'm watching basketball as it's always being played, and that the reason the Miami Heat want to have Game 7 at home is that. That's the reason you want, okay, Niang, let's see if you can do that in the third quarter of Game 7. Because Danny Green, I'm guessing, will keep playing out there, and you will hope that he will keep. If you're the Sixers, okay, that's why we're playing Lowry. That is why. That's the argument for Lowry and Danny Green at this time of year. That's what Pat Riley's always trusted. It's not Hero and Bam. It is not Hero and Bam. It's that guy coming in at the end who knows, who's been through the wars and has the wisdom, and Riley's going to squeeze the last little bits of wisdom out. And at the end of games, it's going to be P.J. Tucker who's playing. And because he's been there a million times.
Yes. Well, last year.
And he will treat it more like it's just a game in a way that Max Strus can't, because now it tightens up on Max Strus. Now, maybe he's as confident as he's always been. Maybe Tyler Hero is that delusionally confident. But God almighty, the last few games of Tyler Hero on the road have made him look like a role player. Like he is one of the guys whose game does not travel.
Yeah, you have to be... If for the Heat to succeed at the level that they want to succeed at as the 1 seed, Tyler Hero needs to have what Stugotz says, which is a game that travels, a game that is good everywhere all the time. But it's so interesting to me. Like I kind of wonder if in every NBA city they feel like the answer is on their bench and not playing. because the amount of conversation about Duncan Robinson when he has had such an up and down season this year. And like everyone feels like the answer is somewhere on their bench, and it's strategic and not just the traveling
It's what you
thing.
do when you get nervous.
It's not the
though.
Joel Embiid thing, but you lose 2 games, and some fans have just completely lost the plot.
Witty, I am talking to my father yesterday, and I am burning. I won't call it hatred through him because I love the man deeply. But he's watched a lot of Heat basketball, and he enjoys this basketball team. And like much of Miami, he feels entitled to win every game by 35 points.
Attaboy.
And I'm watching, and I don't know that he has noticed that Bam is in foul trouble, as are a lot of Heat players, and also Dedmon's not available. And, oh, look, in the middle of the paint, P.J. Tucker and Oladipo are trying to guard Embiid. That's probably not going to work. That's probably not sustainable. And my father says, as I imagine everybody would in this instance, Yurtsevin is the answer. But he can't pronounce Yurtsevin. He can't pronounce it. And, it's just, and so Spo did think for a moment, Yurtsevin, and said, nope. Markeith get out there for the first time. Morris get out there, and then
He looked lost.
Well, his playoff experience has been in the Atlanta series on the bench. While not playing at all, he managed to cost them. He was negative for the game because he grabbed somebody, a hawk, on the sidelines and got himself fined. So not just negative points, but negative $25,000 because he got fined while not playing. And then he goes out there last night, and Embiid stuffs the basketball into the back of his throat.
He was +2 in his 3 minutes, though.
But they tried. Spo's like, okay, can I get 3 Yurtsevin minutes? Nope, I'm going to go with 3 Morris minutes. Oh, that did not go well. Morris got the ball and started doing moves and stuff, and Embiid just took the ball and put it in the back of his throat.
Takes a second.
Caleb Martin is just gone now. Like Caleb Martin, big part of the first round, big part of the first 2 games. Out of here. Like,
but this is how
that's what I love about this shit, though, Dan. Like, playoff basketball, that's what it is. You have guys you rely on in the regular season that just go. You one minute you feel like this guy's an important part of our team, and because of matchups and because of how they put guys through screen rolls and because they're daring Caleb Martin to shoot a 3, it's like, can't be out there. Take him out.
I was thinking Haslam. I swear to you. I wanted Haslam. No, I wanted 2 minutes of Haslam just to send a message right to Embiid's eye. That's all.
This is what Chris Cody, a message to his eye while he's wearing a mask.
You know what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about.
Chris Cody, who said that the playoffs had not started. My analysis has been wrong until now. My analysis of, well, the Heat aren't really going to trust all these 9 deep and 10 deep rotations deep into the playoffs, are they? It's not going to be Gabe Vincent and Strus. This was from months ago, right? It'll go down to the 6 guys, and it'll be P.J. Tucker, and maybe you've got a 7th guy that you trust, but it's going to keep shrinking, right? And this is why your analysis is right, Chris. The playoffs hadn't started, and Stugotz's playoff analysis is also right. They don't start until a home team loses a game.
Exactly.
So now we've got 3 Heat games here. 2 of them are at home, and the playoffs haven't started.
The series might never start.
The series might never start. I keep waiting to go to war with Philadelphia, and the series might not ever start.
Never played them.
Do we have to eat more crow, though? Because Chris Cody and I, we've been doing these post games from the Heat Arena, and we basically ran out of things to talk about after game 2 because it was such a laugher, but not in a way that was interesting. Just this team just seems overmatched. And the series completely flips because Embiid comes back. And I know that's like the guy who's probably going to finish second in league MVP voting. He coming back is a big deal, even though he might be woozy and he's playing with a mask that's probably uncomfortable. But the series, like, it's been 2 completely different series based off the location. I feel like game 5 isn't, I know it doesn't begin until the road team wins a game, but that's kind of the beginning of the series. What does Embiid with this team look like in Miami?
It's best of 3 now, and the playoffs have begun, Chris Cody, and now you feel the official fear as well on Panthers because they got dragged on Saturday in an uninteresting fashion. They are not getting as many shots as they normally do. To me, being down 2-1 isn't like a casual, I'm going to shrug my shoulders, whatever, they'll rebound, they score again. This is the worst case scenario. In 3 games, they're playing Washington style. They can't not play Washington style, even in the game that they won 5-1.
They just played like shit the other night. Their coach crushed them after the game too, and that's weird to see in a playoff series where he's just like, we got outworked. And I don't know. I'm scared. If you're asking me if I'm scared, I'm more scared about the Panthers than I am. I mean, I know they're down.
Because you don't trust them.
It's just
Top to bottom organization, you don't trust them.
Is this how do the hockey playoffs always get in the mud? It seems like during I don't know if that's just the Panthers or that's what always happens in the hockey.
No, this
playoffs.
is both things are true. The playoffs are totally different, man. I didn't believe people as recently as a couple of years ago when the Heat got past Giannis and people were saying, "Hey, the Giannis style, it's great, it's wonderful, it's great," and also let's see it in the playoffs. And it wasn't Stugotz's mental, let's see it in the playoffs. It's not the mental stuff. It's that it's more physical, it's more desperate, it's more clawing. I don't believe it's the mental stuff, but I was surprised a couple of years ago when Giannis wasn't able to get past the Miami Heat because I expect his game everywhere to be, mathematically always, 30, 40 points,
to be great.
20 rebounds, 10 assists, controlling everything and running around and just dunking on everybody, no matter who's out there, because he's just, he's absurd.
I think the Panthers will look back. I know they didn't play well, but they still had a 2-1 lead headed into the third. They hadn't lost a game the entire season when they had a lead going into the third period. That game one's going to haunt them a bit if they lose this series. So
For me, it's been the quality of performance. They've been, if you look at the advanced stats, they have been outplayed from start to finish in this series, except for that third period when they were already up 3-1 and they just cruised to a 5-1 advantage. The rest of the series, they've been outplayed. And Sergei Bobrovsky, you can criticize him for
saved them in this series.
No, he's played well. He's getting
absolutely
pelted.
kept them in this series. But I will say though, like you mentioned, the hockey playoffs being in the muck. There were 4 game 4s last night in the NHL. All of them have the series tied at 2-2.
Yep.
In the other kind of set of 4 games,
It's
there's
2-1.
There's 3 2-1s, and only one series is comfortable, and it's the Avalanche, who are the other great regular season team. They're 3-0 up on the Predators, but every other series is either 2-1 or 2-2. That's what the hockey playoffs are, but it still sucks. And the 1 o'clock on a Saturday for a playoff game was awful.
I love that.
I know I didn't have time to ramp up. I was like, wait a second, what? There's a playoff game. There's qualies on Saturday.
What does you ramping up look like?
Yeah, no, I had to. I
you
can't.
had the races anyway.
I'm not ready. I had Inter Miami as well. I had to prepare for that.
What you ramping up means what? Is it calisthenics? Like are you doing squats in the house like to ramp
Listen
up?
to a couple podcasts.
Yeah, warming up
read
my
a
chance.
newspaper.
Yeah, read some articles. I got to check my
Saturday
Panthers
crossword,
Twitter list.
yeah.
Saturday
Wordle.
crossword. Yeah, a little Wordle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ramping up.
Order some Dunkin'.
1 p.m. is too. Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Is 1 p.m. on a Saturday too early for playoff hockey intensity?
Are we calling tonight's game a must-win? 7 p.m.
Absolutely.
start, by the way. Awesome.
Yeah, no, that's
Yes,
great.
yes.
That's great. But you can't lose this game. This is absolute must win for the Florida Panthers. You're not coming back from 3-1 down the way that they've played. Must win.
It's not a
season,
must win.
It's a season on the line
love
game
it.
tonight, Dan.
Hockey's
Exciting.
weird. It's not a must win.
It's a must win.
Hockey's weird.
Wow.
If there's any sport,
You want to be down 3-1?
okay, obviously if you
be
give
down
me the
3-1
option,
is not the same as must win.
Hold on a second.
Those are two different
I just
things.
asked the
I'm rooting
question.
for them to lose.
Wait, hold on. I don't want to
Jeez.
betray Chris Cody's confidence here, but this is not a must-win game. But on Thursday, when I was driving home from work, I texted Chris Cody and I said, JPR and CBS said today's Marlins game is a must-win game. And he said, he's not wrong. Game like 14 of the season.
Billy, I'm sorry that your team got swamped by last week, right? As soon as
6
we
out of 7 games, they lost by 1 run.
Brutal.
And that's stupid. Jorge Alfaro
Glass-
yesterday with 3-run homer. Get me started. Back to you.
I felt bad for you because as soon as we talked, your team was 12-9. There was hope, and then all they do is lose, crushing game after crushing game. Where you're like, oh, right, come on, 1 run.
They were 1-6 with a +2 run differential last week.
What?
They still have a positive run differential.
+5.
They're a +8 right now.
I'm kind of this is gonna sound very weird, but like I'm kind of glad that if those 6 games went one way or the other, I'm kind of glad that they went to losses instead of wins, because I don't think that I could like emotionally handle responsibly a Marlins team that is 19-9 a month into the season. You know what I mean? Like, here's my comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? Like, 2-3 games under, 10 games over a month in, I would not be able to handle. I wouldn't be able to.
Well, Billy, I was thinking of you this weekend because Jazz Chisholm was saying that the dead balls are going to make his hair go gray before he even dyes it that color. That San Diego, there were so many games there were so many balls that were scorched that looked like they were going to be home runs that just died on the outfield. That might be very frustrating to hit a ball that hard, that far, that well in that sport and have it just die out there for no good reason.
Well, then he hit one like to dead center, like tailing towards left center, and he's a lefty, and it just was crushed. He's good, Jazz.
Yes. I mean, he's on the cusp of superstardom.
The frustrating part is that they seem to be like, at 1 year there's a lot of home runs, so they make the ball dead, and then it's dead, so they let the good ball come back. It's like they're so back and forth with these balls.
Is there nowhere in between?
I think they're just saying things. I don't know if they're actually doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, you just say like, oh yeah, we traded the balls this year. You're like, oh wow, that explains that. And they don't really do anything. Because imagine the whole process of getting humidors for everyone and then taking them in and taking them out and doing a whole thing. Like, who's going to check that? You know what I mean? You just say like, hey, you know, the baseball situation, don't worry. We took care of that. We did blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no one's going to check all these balls. So you just got to trust that that's what's going on. Yeah. You don't think that's what's happening here, Dan?
I don't know why the balls. I thought that there were going to be many home runs. The balls that looked like they were home runs to me kept dying in the outfield, and I'm like, I thought that ball was crushed. I don't
Announcers
understand.
this year getting fooled on home run balls more than anyone I've ever
Well, no,
seen.
that's
It's
because
not just
they're
Chris.
not there. No, but it's because they're not there. A lot of announcers aren't at the ballpark.
I think
I think
lot of
most are
teams are
there.
traveling.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that many teams. And I don't want to name names, but let's just say a team in pinstripes, their announcer seems to be getting confused more than anyone else that I've seen this season, where it just doesn't know what's going on.
Well, he's 83, is he not?
No, I didn't name names. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm just saying
Let's,
some people, you know what I mean? Yeah. And Madison Bumgarner, by the way, enough with that temper tantrum, okay? Like, because I saw a lot of people. I don't know if you guys were watching the game. Probably not, because it was a Wednesday 1:00 game. But like, the whole world was mad at this umpire because they kicked out Madison Bumgarner after his hand was checked. Like, I understand the way that video looks, where the guy's just looking him dead in the arm, or dead in the eye, and he seems to be like sensually massaging his hands, checking for foreign substances in a video that was like very slowed down. Madison Bumgarner was, you know, he was having a little perreta on the mound after like almost every pitch in the first inning. You know what I mean? Like, he kept staring down. He kept doing the thing where he walked off the mound on balls. He wanted everything called for a strike when they weren't strikes on the little box that's on the TV, which I don't even know if that's accurate or not.
He was showing his hand.
He was getting upset because he wasn't getting every single call, because Mad Bum wants every single call, and he's an irritable person. We can agree.
How would
right?
how would you define perreta? A little perreta.
A little temper tantrum. He was having a little fit. He was like saying things to himself. He's like, you know what I mean? Like getting a little yappy, getting angry every time that a pitch wasn't called a strike, and it's like, come on, guy, like, that's not a strike, right? So obviously, if you go off the mound and you're showing up the umpire, you know something's going to happen, right? Now, was he staring at his hand a little too long? Probably. But also, like, come on. What do we think's going to happen here?
The ump apologized, though, right?
That I don't like.
Why?
I don't like the umpire apologizing.
Why?
Because the entire first inning, he was pouting and he was screaming about, like, every pitch, and he was staring him down. He was doing these whole things. It's like, something's going to happen when he gets off the mound. Like, don't just say, okay, just go in the dugout. You're Madison Bumgarner. You're going to be fine. Don't worry. You're better than that. You know? And then he started acting like a crazy, unhinged person, which I don't understand how, like, some of these people can just go. A lot of them are like the managers, or they used to be, where they're like these crazy old men. It's like, you cannot behave this way in a civilized society. Why is it okay when you're wearing a costume that you can do this? Like, just because you're wearing this, that you can just behave however you want, and you can have 40 people try to hold you back as you're trying to manslaughter someone on the field. Like, what is the goal here?
Billy,
Let's say they move. Are you going to attack this 65-year-old man in your 30s? Like, what's the goal? What happens if we don't put on this show?
Billy, you are so right. As I see that the kid from Wonder Years, Fred Savage, has left the remake of Wonder Years because of inappropriate conduct in the workplace that isn't sexual. It's just sort of, I guess, that he's yelling at people. They have a human resources violation every time Toxic Workplace makes an appearance, where a manager is allowed to come out and scream at the authority in front of people in a way that would not be allowed in any other workplace anymore.
They kind of did away with that with the replay, because like now you're not allowed to go have your little temper tantrum on the thing. But like, remember when they would just take bases and throw them into the outfield? And imagine like you get in an argument with, like, as an adult, and you're in your late
So
50s,
great.
60s, and like you're so angry that you start kicking dirt at someone. Like how would that work in any
Good
environment?
problem solving.
Who do you most associate with kicking dirt or ripping up bases? For
Lou
me, it's-
Piniella.
Oh, yeah,
for
Sweet
me, it's,
Lou.
for
Yeah,
me, it's,
Sweet Lou.
it's Lloyd McClendon.
Lloyd McClendon.
Oh, McClendon's great.
I feel bad for Lloyd McClendon because I will.
one that crawled on the ground.
No. Lloyd McClendon's the one that took the base and walked away with it, and like he decided he was leaving. No,
He
that was
took
like
Didn't he
Like
army
that.
crawl? I picture
He
him
took-
army
he
crawling
took-
on his elbow.
No,
I
that's-
think he did that too, didn't he?
I don't know. There was
think
the
he
guy
did.
in the minors that got the rosin bag and threw it like a grenade, which was
Well, he lobbed it. Yes, he
Yeah.
lobbed it. Wait
to
a
home
minute.
plate.
That guy. What? Yes. No, that guy was.
which is like a threat. That's like an actual threat. Like I'm gonna grenade you. That seems like
I want you to imagine your workplace, whoever's listening to me right now. I want you to imagine, okay, that one of the middle managers or a boss with a substantive amount of power, maybe not a middle manager, maybe somebody like a vice president, is now crawling across your workplace, combat crawling on his hands and knees, and he has grabbed a resin bag and in a fury lobbed it like a grenade towards your desk.
and then you have to take that person seriously like the next day. Like, yeah, this person knows what's going on. This is the person in charge.
The next day, you have to let bygones be bygones.
You
after
have
they
to.
kick dirt at
Start
you.
over again.
The
Yeah.
next day, I need to trust that person's judgment and leadership.
Lloyd McClendon took first base and just walked into the dugout with it.
That's
It's
what I'm-
amazing. It's great.
But
He's walking away like it's a briefcase.
Yes.
But the thing about that is like that's all I can think about when I hear his name, and that I feel horrible
He
about
had a
that.
good career.
Yeah, that's but I
all I
can't-
think about too, though.
And I feel bad. Like, should I not feel bad about
No,
thinking that
because
this whole
no.
man's life has come down to one day that he had a bad day at work and he decided I'm not taking this shit anymore. I'm taking the base.
I'm not taking this shit anymore. I'm taking first base. See what you guys can
I'm
do
not taking
about
this shit. I'm taking this shit.
I have the 15 most ejected Major League Baseball managers of all time
Bobby
here.
Cox, by
Yeah,
the
he's
way,
got to be number one.
Bobby
No, he's
Cox,
not, though. It's shocking.
Bobby Cox leads the league in saying vile shit. He has to because Bobby Cox never had like crazy demonstrations like Larry Boa would, but Bobby Cox would get wrung like that. So you know the stuff that he
Oh,
was
just
saying was like,
using
holy
no, it was just
crap.
a word.
Like,
It was just
what
no.
are you saying about these people's family members, Bobby Cox? And I mean that respectfully.
162 total ejections for Bobby Cox. By far the most in Major League Baseball history. By far.
But you don't think of like, is there an incident that, yeah, that's a full season. Like he missed an entire year of managing with ejections. That's crazy. But like, can you think of like one Bobby Cox ejection? Because he never had like the whole.
Oh, but I believe he was just going out there and calling umpires bleep suckers. And
Well, that's
you're
what Billy's saying. He never got his money's worth.
There's
I mean,
just a word. There's words you cannot use that all umpires know that that's a button. So he'd just go out there. I'm guessing by 161, Cox is like, I got to do this again.
Right.
I gotta go.
Gotta
walk-
get to 162.
I gotta go walk out there and do this thing where I call this other human being a bleep sucker. So he tosses me from the game.
I feel like there was probably like some July games that Bobby's just like, I don't want to be here today.
It's hot.
You know,
Yeah.
it's hot.
I'm
like,
old.
It's hot.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Just looking for
I
something.
want a nice tea.
Yeah,
I
like-
mean, yeah.
I don't want to be at work today.
Arnold Palmer.
I'm in charge. I've been wandering around America doing my circus show. Here's Bobby Cox injection number 111. I'm doing it in St. Louis. I'm
exactly
tired. I
a
need
July
a day off.
hot St. Louis day. Like, you know, it's a getaway
You know what?
day. Like,
After a night game.
let me
yeah.
just get out
And
of
then he
here.
gets
early.
ejected, goes into the sad manager's office, like, oh, well, I don't want to spend an hour in here.
No, he gets in there, he starts doing his crosswords, you know what I mean? Or he
Yeah.
reads his
No, gets in the
stories as he
hot
calls
tub,
them.
no.
You're making him Whittingham.
It gets so hot in the St. Louis summers. It gets so hot that the media members are wearing lettuce on their head. Like there's lettuce they give out in St. Louis, so you could just put it on your head. Bobby Cox,
Is that a trick?
yeah. Like,
We should have done this at the Formula One then. What were we doing? Why didn't we get heads of lettuce?
I've never heard of lettuce on the head. I've heard of an onion peel on the head.
I had
What?
never heard of it either until baking. Like you could feel the fumes off the St. Louis field, and they gave it to press box members. I can picture though Bobby Cox just saying, "Oh God, no!" Seeing like that fuel rising off of an AstroTurf and being like, I'm getting thrown out here in the second inning. I'm gonna go spend some time in the jacuzzi."
So the lettuce is wet and you put it under your hat? It's
Yes.
wet lettuce?
Yes.
Lettuce?
I'm seeing an article online of former Marlins first base coach Perry Hill putting
that's
some lettuce
classic.
under his helmet.
Yep.
Yeah. I believe David Sampson tells a story that they had to give away like a genuine asset to get Perry Hill back in as first base coach.
I saw him with the Mariners the other day. It made me happy. He was on. That's a guy who would show up at the ballpark all the time, no matter what, with a cheery spirit, and thought, yeah, I'll never be Bobby Cox out there trying to get away from baseball. I just want to. All I want to do with my life is teach Miguel Rojas how to have soft hands.
Teach him to hit. Jeez. Struggling this year. More than the top 15 things.
The top 15 most ejected managers in baseball history. You're going to be surprised by this. It's actually, it's 13 because there's a tie for 13th. So,
then there's 14.
then there's 14, right?
There might be another
is it
tie.
a three-way
It's-
tie for
it's-
13?
There might be another tie at some point.
It's a three-way tie for 13. My apologies. Yes.
That's a weird way for this site to do a top 15.
It is Bill Rigney, Clint Hurdle, and Lou Piniella. This is a shocker to me because he seems like such a pleasant man. Joe Torre.
Compiler.
Number 10, a tie. Clark Griffith. No idea who it is. This one, not a shocker. Jim Leland. Number 9, Bruce Bochy.
Sleepy Bruce Bochy.
Number 8, Paul Richards. Number 7, Ron Gardenhire. Gardy. Number 6, Frankie Frisch.
Great name.
Number 5, Tony La Russa. Number 4, no shocker here, Earl Weaver.
I would have thought that was number 1, actually.
Number 3, Leo DeRocher.
DeRocher.
Number 2, John McGraw. And Bobby Cox.
Was Billy Martin on the list? Did I miss
Didn't
it?
sound like it. He
No.
did not mention Billy Martin.
Those names sound a lot like ear hair, right? Like there's a lot of people that seem very hairy. I don't know why I think Joe Torre's hairy, but he strikes me as really thick hair. Like if he were to just go camping and like decide I'm going to be on Survivor or something and he can't shave for a while, Joe Torre probably looks like a bear.
He has more hair in his ear than I have on my head.
Put it on the poll at LeBatard Show. Does Joe Torre have a thicket of hair in his ear? Your hair did not move while skydiving, which was a bit of a stunner to me, even knowing that it's lacquered in all the right places. Can you get me the stat of the day, please? Can you get me the introduction for that?
Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day.
The stat of the day is presented by our friends at ZipRecruiter.
Before I get to the stat of the day, because I'm excited about best of 3 for the Heat season, you got to go through Embiid and Harden. Embiid, just a wonderful, wonderful troll and villain. He did the suck it in Game 3, right? Returns from concussion and did the suck it. He did
He did it, yeah.
the just chop down on his groin region. And
Degeneration X. I got 2 words for you.
this is not the stat of the day, but I'm putting it forth as something interesting as well. The Heat joined the NBA in 1989, okay? Since then, the Sixers have gone to the conference finals once, and the Heat have gone to the conference finals 8 times. But what the Heat blew yesterday was the Scott Foster game. This stat is from Mike Lederer, and since 1997, with Scott Foster as the ref, the Heat have won more than any team in the league, 67.6%. James Harden against Scott Foster when Scott Foster was refereeing was 1-13, and his only win was against Chris Paul, who is 0-14 against Scott Foster.
It's funny because he's one of those referee names where you see him on the lineup and you go, oh, Scott Foster because he just has that reputation. But Heat fans should rejoice whenever he's
I mean,
he's on the running order.
They blew the Scott Foster
blew
game.
the Scott Foster game.
They threw away the Scott Foster game, and now it is a best of 3 situation. Jessica, what are you laughing?
But the Danny Green game happened, so I mean,
what are you laughing? What is Tony saying back there, and why are you guys laughing hysterically?
Chris Cody has a new impression that is very good. Dan, I don't know if you saw the video of Tony skydiving, but there was a moment where the skydiving instructor pulled his head back in a very sensual way.
I was
and
jealous.
Exposed the bare of his neck.
And Tony kind of just nuzzles his head. He puts his head back and he
Well, I thought that Tony was trying not to look down and trying not to fear, and so he just threw his head back. I imagine that I would do something similar. I don't want to look down as to what I'm going to dive into.
Here's the thing, right? So we're on the ground and Igor's telling me, listen, what you're gonna Igor, that's his name, yeah, Venezuelan guy, my boy. So we get into the plane. He's like, look, what you're going to do, since you're a big guy, he's maybe all of 5'7", 150 pounds strapped to my back, like a backpack. So we get into the plane. He's like, look, what you're going to do is you're going to lean your head back so you can see, because my arms aren't going to be able to reach around you, to do the hand signals to tell the Red Bull guys when to jump so we can jump. And I'm like, all right, cool, I got you. First thing I do, he puts me at the edge of that plane, and all I'm doing is looking down 13,000 feet. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then that's when he pulls my head back. Yeah, because he couldn't.
And the way Tony was just like, oh, yes.
You did get it. You did. No, that is true.
He surrendered himself
you
to
did
the skydiving
surrender.
instructor.
That is exactly you surrendered to that man.
Take me.
Dan, 13,000 feet. I'm looking at stuff. I'm looking at buildings like ants. There is nothing down there.
I understand your fear.
Oh, yes.
Igor couldn't do the old reach around, huh?
I couldn't.
It's I'm all yours.
It was
gave himself to
it. It was a bit coital. It was surrender. The verbs are right here. Where yes, the fear was such, and the land looked so small below that he just surrendered into Igor's arms. And there was something
I entrust
sensual
my life to
here.
you.
Take me, Igor.
The difference is